30% of marriages in Australia end in divorce, which means that 70% of marriages in Australia end in death, which sounds worse, but it isn't. In fact, it's a good thing. It means that 70% of people who vow at their wedding they will love one another in good times and bad all the days of their life until death do them part, do that right to the end. And that is worth celebrating. It's an example of what Jesus talks about in the gospel tonight, where Jesus uses two images to talk about following through on commitment. The first of a person building a tower, just working out whether they can afford to finish the tower before they begin, and the other being the king marching off to war, working out whether he actually can defeat an opponent with the number of men he has in his army. And both those are Jesus challenging us to say, before I set out on a new venture, can I see this through? Before I get married, do I have the capacity to enter fully into a marriage that will allow me to commit for all my life? This is why we actually in the church take marriage preparation so seriously. It is now mandated that all couples must do some kind of marriage preparation before their wedding. And the priest has discretion over what kind of preparation that might be, but in the end he has to sign off and say, I believe this couple are prepared and ready for marriage. We take it seriously because marriage is to be for life, is to end only in death. And so we need a deep capacity, deep preparation of our hearts to see it through. But Jesus isn't actually talking about marriage in the gospel today. He's talking about a different sacrament. He's actually speaking more about baptism, about the commitment it is to become a disciple of Jesus, which for us begins in our baptism. We might rightly be upset that there is a 30% failure rate of marriages in Australia, and that is a tragedy each and every time. But the far greater tragedy is that I think 90+% of baptisms fail, in that people who are baptised do not become lifelong, mature adult Catholics. Now, we have to take that in some ways with a grain of salt because so many, sadly, people who are baptised never intended to become lifelong, mature disciples of Jesus. Many people were baptised with the intention to get into a school or to please grandparents or some other reason other than faith in Jesus. But once we take those out of the equation, even then, if those people take seriously the commitment they make at baptism, many of those aren't able to follow all the way through either. And that's why Jesus gives this stark challenge in the gospel. Jesus is challenging us, say, before I choose to become a disciple, before I respond to Jesus, which might be just my own internal commitment or maybe an external baptism, but before I make that decision, can I see it through? Do I have what it takes to give my whole life to Jesus and the claims which discipleship will make upon my life at some stage? That's the real challenge Jesus is saying. Discipleship is challenging. To say yes to Jesus is not just an easy thing. As we grow, Jesus is to take up more and more of our heart. And so in time, he will make demands on us which may be very, very challenging. And he gives two examples in the gospel today. In the first, Jesus says, no one can be my disciple unless they hate their brother, sister, mother, father, etc., which makes probably no sense to us because Jesus always teaches us to love our family, love all people. Why is he saying here to hate? Well, it's a Jewish idiom. To say that you love one person and hate the other is actually saying I put one first and the other second. We hear in the Old Testament that God loved Jacob but hated Esau. Didn't actually hate Esau in the way we think, so it meant he put him second. And so what Jesus is saying to us is we need to put him first and our discipleship first. And sometimes that will mean putting our family, even our family, second. That's very hard and very countercultural for us. But it is part of the demands discipleship may sometimes make on us. Then Jesus says, no one can be my disciple unless they take up their cross. No one can be a disciple unless they are willing to give up all their possessions. This, again, is a stark thing that Jesus says. And Jesus actually makes this challenge about money again and again, that money, wealth, prosperity holds us back from him. And so while it might not be the thing we do when we first make our initial commitment, we don't have to give everything away, although some people have indeed given everything away to follow Jesus, famously the St. Anthony and one of the Desert Fathers. But for us, we may not have to do it at the start, but as we gradually grow more in love with Jesus and he makes more and more of a claim on our lives and on our hearts, there may be the time when we do have to give up our possessions. We may have to let go of something. We may have to give something away. We may have to maybe not take the job or the promotion or the thing which might give us more money or success, not make the certain investment because it's not ethical. All kinds of ways in which Jesus might ask us to give up money in some way, because we have to put him first. To follow Jesus is demanding. He makes big claims on our hearts and our lives. And we might not have to do it all at once at first. The decision to follow Jesus will gradually take on more and more of our heart. So Jesus is saying, like the person building the tower or the person going to war, we have to think, can I do this? Do I intend this? Do I have the capacity to enter deeply into a committed relationship with him, which one day may take my life and my all? Hopefully for us the answer will be yes.